Looking at 2.2c, writing equations of lines. So if we're given a graph, we want to be able to write that equation in your slope-intercept form. Y equals mx plus b, where m is your slope, b is your y-intercept. So let's look at a problem. If we want to write the equation, we're writing it in that form again. Y equals mx plus b. So in order to do this, we need to figure out what m is, and we need to figure out what b is. That's the information we need in order to write the equation of a line. Well, remember, our slope m is our rise over run. So let's start off by picking 2 points on this graph. So here's 1 point, here's another point. Well, to get from here, I'm going to go up 1, that's my rise, and I'm going to go over 1, that's my run. Well, 1 over 1 I can simplify to just my slope being m equals 1. So I'm halfway. I still need to know my y-intercept. Well, here's the point that's crossing my y-axis. That point is 0, 1, 2. So 0, 2. Well, if we have the point 0, 2, that tells us that our b value is 2. Now we know m, we know b, so we plug them into our formula. We end up with y equals 1x plus 2. We can also write this as y equals x plus 2, because 1 times x is still x. Either of these answers is acceptable. That's our equation in slope-intercept form. Let's look at another one. So again, we're finding our slope, then our intercept, then we plug them into that slope-intercept form. So here we go. Here's 1 point, here's another point. So we're looking for m. Well, my rise over run, I go down 1. Remember, down is expressed by a negative, so my rise is -1, and I go over 1. So my run is +1. Well, -1 divided by +1 is just -1. I have m. Now I need to find b. So my b value, again, that's my y-intercept. Well, right here is where my graph is crossing my y-axis. That's the point 0, 3. 0, 3. So my b value is going to be 3. And now I just plug those in for my equation. Y equals -1x plus 3. And that is my answer. Well, let's try another one. So we're doing the same thing. So here's a point on my line. Here's another point. Well, we're going up 1, over 1. Up 1, over 1. So 1 over 1 is our rise over run. Well, that just simplifies to 1. Our y-intercept is way down here at the point 0, -4. So this one's a little bit different because our y-intercept is negative. So our b is going to be equal to -4. So when we plug this in, we're going to have y equals 1x minus 4. -4 since that b was negative. When b was positive, we were adding, but since b is negative, that tells us we need to subtract. Remember, this is the same as y equals x minus 4. Again, that 1 times x is the same as x, so either of these answers are acceptable. Here's a special case. We have a horizontal line. So if we pick 2 points, well, for our slope, our rise, we're not rising or going down at all. So our rise is just 0. We're going 1 to the right. So 0 over 1, you can check in your calculator, 0 divided by 1 is just 0. So we have a slope of 0, so recognizing that pattern, that tells us our answer should be y equal to some number. We need to know the y-intercept. So this y-intercept is the point 0, 2, which tells us b is equal to 2. So if we plug this information in, let's see what we get. We'll end up having y equals 0 times x plus 2. 0 times x is just 0. So we can simplify this down. Y equals 2. And that is our answer. Notice how it followed that pattern of a horizontal line being represented as y equal to some number. Sometimes we want to be able to write an equation if we're given a point and the slope. So right here we have the point 2,3 and the slope of -2. So again, we're still trying to write it in that y equals mx plus b format. So let's look at the information we have. Right now, we have an x value, we have a y value, and we have the slope. If we want to be able to write this equation, we need to find b. So right now, we are finding that y-intercept. So we're going to plug in these variables that we have. We're going to plug in their numbers. So we know that y equals mx plus b. I'll record this very quickly so we can see where we're plugging things in. We know a y on this line is 3. Our slope on this line is -2. The corresponding x on this line is +2. And we are trying to figure out what b is. So 3 equals -2 times 2 plus b. Well, this is a throwback to Unit 1, so we're just going to solve like we did in Unit 1. 3 is just 3. -2 times +2 is -4, and we're still adding b. Well, to solve for b, the opposite of -4 is to add 4. 3 plus 4 is 7. Our 4's cancel each other out, so 7 is equal to b. Now that we have our slope that we started with and our y-intercept that we just found, we can write the equation of our line. So y equals -2x plus 7. That's our answer. That's all we need. Last one we're looking at today, what if they give us 2 points? So 2 points and they want us to write that equation. So we still need to know the slope and the y-intercept before we can plug them into that slope-intercept form. So remember, if we have 2 points and we want to find the slope, we're going to use that formula of m equals y2 minus y1 divided by x2 minus x1. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to label my points. Remember, you have to keep your 1's and your 2's together. So I'm going to let 5, 3 be my x1, y1, 6, -2 be my x2, y2. Now I just plug them in. Well, y2 minus y1 is my -2 minus 3. My x2 minus x1 is my 6 minus 5. And then I compute that. -2 minus 3 is -5. 6 minus 5 is 1. -5 divided by 1, well, we can just simplify that down to -5. Now we have our slope. Well, we can use that to find our y-intercept. So I'm going to pick either point. So either 5, 3 or 6, -2. I can choose either of them. It doesn't matter. I'll end up with the same y-intercept. I'm going to pick 5, 3. So I'm going to let my x is going to be equal to 5 and my y is equal to 3 because, again, that's the ordered pair I chose. And my m is still equal to -5. So I'm going to plug these in. This tells me that 3 equals -5 times 5 plus b. And now I just solved, just like we did in the previous slide. 3 equals -25 plus b. Well, plus 25 plus 25. Our y-intercept is 28. Now we have our slope and our y-intercept, so we can write the equation of this line. Y equals -5x plus 28. And that is our answer. That's our solution. Let's try one more of those. So again, we're going to start off by finding our slope. I'm going to let this be my x2, y2. Here's my x1, y1. So we're going to have 3 minus 6 divided by 2 minus 4. 3 minus 6 is -3. 2 minus 4 is -2. We can simplify that to 3 halves, right? Our negatives will cancel each other out. So we have our slope. Well, now we can use that to find our y-intercept. So I'm going to pick one of these points. Let's use 4, 6 this time. So this is step 1, this is step 2. So that means x is equal to 4, y is equal to 6, and we just found m is equal to 3/2. So let's plug that into our slope-intercept form. 6 equals 3/2 times 4 plus b. Well, I'm going to simplify. 2 goes into 2 once, 2 goes into 4 twice. So this is, my 6 stays the same. My 3/2 times 4 is going to simplify to 6. And I'm still adding my b. To get b by itself, we subtract 6. So we're going to end up with 0 equals b. We have our slope, we have our y-intercept, so we write our equation for our line. Y equals 3/2 x plus 0. Anything plus 0 is just itself, so we can write this as y equals 3/2 times x. And that is our equation. All right, that is the end of this video.